So that's awesome. Anybody that came in, thanks for coming in. Josh Billy,
Yep.
owner of eSports Guru. We got Bigzy with us. He's
What's
with
going on, guys?
Isolation Empire now, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And so the reason that you being with Isolation Empire associates you with the female pro league is because of Happy, right? I think is he the owner of
Right.
Isolation
And
Empire?
I right. And I basically what I did is I just I asked him when I joined ISO, I said, hey, can I help with anything? And so he asked me originally to basically be a ref. And he said, well, we have enough refs right now. So he asked me to moderate for the female pro league, and so that's what I'm doing currently. So just starting out, and I'm doing whatever I can to help with that. So
Okay. Um, so could you tell us like a little bit of background on the female pro league for anybody that doesn't know anything about it? And I know very minimal information, just a minimal amount of information about it. Basically, when it was announced, I know that Happy was a big part of it. I know there's a lot of other people that are also involved. So yourself, a lot of other people from other organizations, and it seems like pretty much the word has gotten out because I was actually watching the stream the other day, and there were a lot of pro players in there as well. So there seems to be pretty good amount of support for it.
yeah. I had a conversation with Optic Jewel the other day. So I mean, it's pretty awesome. So far, there's a lot going on with the female pro league. A lot of people doubted it at first. At first there was a lot of people who were saying, well, is it sexism? Is it just making it to where females are not going to be able to compete anymore? And we're making it to where there's also been in the past where there's been female pro leagues started up, but they haven't been as successful as we've started. And so in our first day of streaming, when we started the qualifiers about a week ago, we had about 800 plus viewers. We had Optic Hex tune in. We had a bunch of other people, that I had a conversation with. So I mean, it was pretty nice. So basically, what the female pro league is here to basically make it more competition towards women. In the past, there's always been there's been a few women who have always dominated, such as one you could really come up with is Dream Crazy. She's consistently in the past she's placed top 8 throughout sometime in AW. I think it was at UMG Orlando. She ended up placing top 8 there. And so, but there's not been a lot of women who have been as successful in the past. And,
Yep.
It's been to where now we've started up the female pro league, and there's been just a lot of, hype about it lately. So
Just one comment. Do you have like a table or something you put your phone down on, so you don't have to shake it with your?
Ye-
It might be easier. It might be easier that way.
Not really, but
No. Okay.
not with me, no.
All right. Okay. So yeah, there's been a lot of. Yeah, I think it's a good idea that you guys started up the female pro league. So like you said, there's some people that kind of have doubts about it. That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what they're saying. What kind of doubts do you think people have about this league?
Well, just, a lot of people think it's not going to be successful. They just feel that because in the past there's been other leagues who have tried to start up the female pro league in some kind of way.
Yep.
And in the past it hasn't been successful. And so a lot of people doubted it, basically saying, oh, it's going to be the same thing like every other time, where it hasn't been successful at all. But to be honest, everything with it so far, we've been working really hard with this. And I mean, it's just phenomenal in what's being put in play. You have a lot of publicity coming to the female pro league. So already, I mean, they just started about, they've been only streaming for about four days or so.
Yeah.
And they're already at over 1,000 followers on stream.
So what do you guys think that you're doing differently that's getting it more attention, and that's going to ultimately make it successful?
Honestly, just with everything, this is gaining publicity for the women out there. There's a lot of women out there who know how to compete, who just know how to play. And in the past, there has been women teams who have had some success, but I mean, not as much as, it's always been men dominated in with female, and you got your male teams as well. And so overall, there's been in the past there's been teams. So we're basically putting more of a competition for women so they can be able to compete. And it's basically going to be its own female pro league. So we're basically going to be having competitions overall. There's going to be some huge things coming up here in the next couple of weeks, just about what's going to be going on with the female pro league. So.
Okay, so what's been announced? I know that the other day I was watching the stream and it was basically a qualification tournament.
Right. A couple of days ago, yesterday, they had the Redemption Tournament. So basically what it was is we're doing stuff a little bit different than the COD World League. And so we had basically where this Redemption, we had 12 teams qualify in the first qualifiers last week.
Yeah.
So we decided to say, okay, there was four EU teams and 8 American teams, North American teams that qualified. So we decided, we were like, all right, let's bring in maybe one team from each region. So what we did is we put 2 brackets of 3 teams of women teams, and basically one team, it was just a single elimination tournament, and one team would end up qualifying. We felt like it was needed. Like there should be another chance for some of these teams. Mm-hmm. There was a few teams, like for example, U4X. They played some very tough teams, and they didn't qualify the first time. And to be honest, I put them in the top 4 teams overall. Top 4, top 5 teams in there. With the female teams, and they had probably the toughest schedule overall. Last week at the qualifiers. So we decided we were going to put the Redemption together to allow, another chance for more of these women to be, involved. So.
Okay, so you said that there is basically international teams, right?
Right, correct.
Do you have some sort of like breakdown? How many are from North America? How many are where are the other teams from?
Right. So we actually have some teams. There's 5 EU teams overall. So from Europe, and then we have 8 North American teams. I think we have 1 team from Italy, which is kind of crazy. We have a few teams. I think the other 4 are from the United Kingdom. So.
Okay. So you have 5 international teams.
Right, and U4X I think is the team that's from Italy. So most of their guys are from Italy. And then you also have a team called Liquid Queens, who they didn't end up qualifying, but they're an Italian team as well. So it was pretty interesting seeing. So.
Okay, that is interesting, because usually, I mean, it's got to be difficult playing overseas, like online.
Right.
Were there any issues with that, with hosting?
Last week we had some issues overall with just connection wise.
Yeah.
We basically made it to where, though, also, so through the qualifiers you couldn't have subs, and that was the reason why we didn't want to do that, because it would kind of put an advantage on certain teams, and we felt like it was fair for them to, if somebody couldn't show up. So for example, U4X had to play last week a 3v4 situation because one of their players didn't end up showing up. So, and they basically, played Liquid Queens, I think was the team they played, or not Liquid Queens, UX is what it's called. They're a team from Europe, and basically they had to play them in a 3v4, and they still ended up playing very well. It was all 3 of them were ended up to go in positive in every single match. So basically, but it was a disadvantage because they didn't have a 4th. So we wanted to do it to where we felt like it was fair, instead of bringing in a sub that maybe somebody didn't necessarily at the beginning, deserved, because it's for qualifying.
Yeah. Okay, so how many teams total did you have in the qualification tournament? You said 12 qualified, right? And
12 qualified, correct.
So how many were
out of 18.
How many were 18? Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that turnout? Do you think that was 18 sounds like a pretty decent turnout for something new.
Right. We had more than just 18 teams, but through this, we ended up doing to kind of like the COD World League, where basically people were voted into the COD, basically the female pro league, and you would end up having teams be able to compete. We had multiple teams, more than 18 teams who wanted to compete. But we're going to get that opportunity here pretty soon, here in the near future. We're going to obviously be doing more of these qualifiers and stuff, after maybe the season 1. So.
Okay. And so there's a lot of organizations that are picking up these teams. It seems like I'm looking at the page right now for the 12 teams that qualified, and we have. Can I just read out the list real quick? We have
Yeah.
Kinetic Empire, Sway Gaming, Mutiny, Excellence. Is that a EX? Or is
Right.
that okay? Fatal
Excellence
Ambition,
gaming. So
Excellence Gaming, Nerd Esports. There's one team that doesn't seem to have a name. UX Gaming, Stunner, In Control, EZG, and Riot Gaming.
right.
Okay, so there's, all of these have organizations. Some of them, I don't know, sound pretty new, but a few of them I definitely recognize. Do you see any other maybe larger organizations? Do you think they might try to work their way into this league if it's successful in the future?
Honestly, yes, I would. I've been looking at it, and it's been kind of funny or a little iffy, just on my part, because I've been thinking about, okay, lately we've had Pomage tune in, we've had Optic Jewel, we've had Hex who's tuned in, we've had Hitch who's tuned in, and honestly, if this becomes very successful and there's a lot of money put in this, I honestly think maybe even you could end up even possibly seeing, maybe not right now, but in the future you could end up seeing Optic Gaming possibly having a female team with Midnight and Jewel. So that would be pretty interesting.
That would be interesting. By the way, you have a fan in the chat. I think you'll recognize his name, I guess. Godly Django. Do you
Yeah,
wanna,
yeah, I do.
he
I know
says,
who he
he
is.
says, "I love you, right? Notice me." Thanks for everybody
Yeah,
that's tuning in, by the way. This is the Esports Guru stream. We talk about Call of Duty and other esports. Um, Today we're talking to Bigzy about the Female Pro League. Just kind of just like, a little bit of a off schedule stream. Typically gets on Thursdays, and we stream League of Legends on Sundays. But Bigzy talked to me on Twitter, and we decided that we'd go ahead and talk about this topic for tonight. So thank you all for tuning in. Give the stream a follow if you're interested in other esports talk shows in the future. Okay, so we're talking about the different teams that are currently found in the league, right?
right.
Is there some sort of schedule? So you have the redemption tournament, which was last night. Is that right?
Right.
Where do you go from here?
From here, we're going to be going on to where here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be announcing the actual, the actual event to where we're actually going to be competing. Schedules are being set up right now, and throughout the next couple of weeks, they're going to be doing all that. Apparently that's not my job. So overall, I'm not fully detailed on those things, but for what I know of, we're in the next couple of weeks, we're working on getting all this set up, and then we're going to be working it out. So Isolation, Happy, if you know who he is from ISO, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with him. He's the one who started up the Female Pro League, and so a lot of people doubted him. A lot of people thought it was going to be kind of crazy that he's doing this. But honestly, I think this is gaining a lot of publicity overall. We have some huge intel coming here in the next couple of weeks, and I know about it, but I can't mention it. So it's going to be insane. So
Something to look forward to.
yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, so you're saying, we're gonna go away from maybe some of the details. I think you've covered a lot of what is known already about this league. So I just had a question for you. You mentioned that people kind of doubted it, and
Great.
there's certain reasons why people might not think it's going to be successful. One of them, some people think that there really shouldn't be a female pro league. I'm sure you've heard that concern previously before.
Oh yeah, I've heard it multiple times all over Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand both sides of the argument. So now in the CWL and the Call of Duty World League, we actually are seeing a female competitor for the very first time in Australia. She qualified online, not in the LAN tournament, because I don't think she was actually invited to the LAN tournament.
Yeah, her name is Sheezy or Shiki or I forget her name.
It's Squizzy.
Squizzy, that's right.
Kayla Squires is her name.
Yeah.
I talked to her for an interview, and actually when I Googled Female Pro League, do you know what came up? The first Google search result was my article on her. It was kind of funny. I couldn't find... I don't know, maybe the Female Pro League website is so new that when I Googled it, it just didn't show my Google
It is kind of new. It's been around for about a month and a half or so.
Okay. But the address is very easy to find, femaleproleague.com. I mean,
right.
Google.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Godly Django said, "I support female pro league" with the hashtag, and then you also have another fan in the chat, Exodus. Man, you're
Yeah,
super
I know
popular out
Exodus. Harain. Yeah, I know him.
And we got a nice tweet out from Mutiny Zephyr.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine.
yeah, and he's got a team, Mutiny, in the female pro league, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they ended up qualifying, and they ended up losing. So what we did in the actual first event or first qualifiers is it would be double elimination. So we basically had it to where on Saturday we started it up, and the winning teams would then qualify, and then you'd have the losers bracket. And each team would end up having to fight their way to getting a position, which was a lot harder because some people had different schedules. Some teams had to face two teams, while some teams had to face one based on their ranking.
Okay.
So.
And so that you said they did qualify though.
Right, they did.
Yeah. They were on that list. Okay, so sorry, we just had to notice the chat real quick. So one thing, Kayla Squires, Squizzy in Australia qualified, and some would say that I guess the competition in Australia isn't quite as competitive, or there's not as many top teams in Australia. So some people might say that she qualified because of that, but at the same time, her team defeated a group of players that actually attended Call of Duty Championship last year. So clearly,
Right.
there's definitely some pretty good female talent out there in the Call of Duty world. And
Oh yeah.
what do you think has really been holding them back from being noticed, in North America and in Europe at a high level before this female pro league?
Honestly, I think it's just been because, there's not as many women who are competing as men. And so men have kind of, I guess you could say, dominated, not saying anything. But, there has been men. There's a lot of men there's way more men than there is female. But it's basically been because of that. Also, you got to think about, there's not a lot of women who, until we just started up the female pro league, there wasn't a lot of women who were actually teaming up together. Yep. So it was kind of tough. It's pretty tough for, I guess you could say, women, with like three other guys competing, because when you think about it, a lot of times it's basically going to be like, okay, I know that all these players are good because they're men. I've known them for a while. You're good buddies with somebody, and obviously you're probably going to team with him because he's good, and you've teamed with him. A lot of times, men don't give the women the chance to be able to compete, and that's kind of been the issue. Honestly, though, Squizzy, it's Squizzy, right?
Squizzy, yeah.
Yeah, Squizzy. She. To be honest, with her in the Australian League, I think she really earned it. And really, to be honest, I think this is going to gain a lot of publicity off of her. She's the first person to qualify for the COD World League, which is kind of interesting. You never seen that happen before, and you really never hear about the women being involved in the esports community. You never hear about it. It's mostly men, and that's what we want to do here at the Female Pro League. Is we want to be able to grow the publicity involved with women competitive Call of Duty. So
yeah, like you said, I mean, throughout all of esports, I think female competitors are sparse. Like, I was watching actually NALCS. I don't know if you follow League of Legends at all. One thing I didn't know, Renegades had a girl on the team. I don't know what her name was, but she was playing today with Renegades here in North America. And there's other teams that have
the MES.
No, LCS. It was
okay. Yeah.
League of Legends.
Right.
Yeah, so they had a female competitor. I read a story a long time ago. There was a really good StarCraft player, female, and CS:GO events. They've had all female CS:GO events. So I think, do you remember the eSports World Cup?
I'm not so familiar with it, so no.
Well, they had the eSports World Cup last year, and I think the year before for Call of Duty. It was over in France, and they had an eSports World Cup for CS:GO. It was in Canada.
Okay, yeah. No, I get you. I remember in France, because I'm pretty sure Enable was there. Was during that time, I think, wasn't Enable teaming with Optic, Scumpy and all them?
Yeah, that was
yeah. I do remember.
Series of events that Enable was filling in for Karma at the time.
Right, because
Yep.
he couldn't go. He didn't have his pass.
Yeah, he couldn't go across these yet. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they've had other female, LAN events actually for CS:GO. So do you guys foresee that in the future for the female pro league?
Like, what do you mean?
Oh, a LAN event. So right now everything is
Oh
online.
yeah.
Do you guys
I
foresee
mean,
like
it's
a?
all based on, it's really just all based on what's going to be happening with, it's all based on, we're working things out, we're getting everything scheduled. I'm not so familiar with everything,
Okay.
personally, because, I'm not involved with scheduling everything. But from what I know, I'm pretty sure there will be LAN events here in the near future. And not only that, but because the COD World League is being involved in this, and you're having, you're having the challenge division, that was announced, what was it, last Sunday or so, and they were talking about basically just overall about challenge division points that you can possibly do. So that'll be pretty cool. So basically you're going to be able to earn points to qualify, and it's going to even allow some of these women teams to be able to compete. You're going to see more of a competition towards that. And so it's going to allow, more of these women to gain publicity and even be a higher rank in the challenge division and possibly even qualify. So
Okay, so that was kind of leading into one of my next questions. Do you
no.
see the the female pro league? Do you see it kind of like lasting for, I don't know, a long time, or do you see it more of a kind of a stepping stone to kind of maybe bring attention to the female competitors that are out there?
I think this is going to go far, to be honest. Just with everything that's gone on so far and how everything's running, everything has kind of been running smoothly. We've had Lemon Kiwi on board with us. We have Paradox. We have Mr. Rostermania or Landon. So overall, I mean, there's been a lot of success so far that's been gone on. So honestly, I think though overall, this is going to really turn into something that's going to really grow. I feel like overall, we're going to be continuing to grow the brand of the Female Pro League and continue it on, especially into the next COD. So,
yeah, I could definitely see it lasting, for a while. What do you think about the top teams though? Do you think they have? Are they going to attend the Challenge Division event at South Carolina?
some of these female teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I actually was in contact the other day with Sneaky. She's been a very good competitive player. I've been familiar with her because I've worked with her in the past about basically having her on my team when I was back in Osiris eSports, which was a young amateur team, and Sneaky played under that team. So she was our only female, and she was the captain of that team, and she was playing with all boys. So. Overall, I could end up seeing this where it's going to be a success. Sneaky and Team Carnage's women's team, I know they're going to be there. I'm pretty sure Excellence Gaming is going too, that I know of. So,
okay, so there's definitely a couple teams lined up to go, and
right.
They have the chance to earn themselves Challenge Division points. So what we know so far about the Challenge Division, like you said, it was not announced that long ago. I think maybe a month ago, UMG announced South Carolina. Something like that, and they're going to be having it in a few weeks. And that's the only event that we really know about actually right now. I was just talking about this with my one guest previously from Australia, where they haven't announced any Challenge Division events. But now you can earn these points, right? You can earn Challenge Division points from this LAN event, how you place, and that goes to basically determine who is going to be able to challenge teams that are currently in the Pro Division to be make it into season 2 of the Call of Duty World League, right?
Right.
So, with the Female Pro League, I mean, you guys it's kind of organizing. Like you said, a lot of these teams kind of formed after you announced the Female Pro League. Mm-hmm. And so, now they're kind of working together. Do you see a lot of them giving it a really good shot to try to compete in Stage 2 of the Call of Duty World League?
Yeah, honestly, I do. I think this is going to bring competition for some of these women teams because you're talking about the best women, and you're starting to see where some of these women are now finding out, okay, who's good, who's really making a name for themselves, and you're really going to see that. Yes, I know, Mom.
All right, so we're gonna have to end this pretty soon. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I gotta go pretty soon. Okay. So but just finishing up what I've said was the Female Pro League. You got some of these teams, you got some women teams so far that I've seen. like U4X, for example, you have Sway Gaming, who's been very dominant. They played a team called UX
Yeah.
in the qualifiers, and they beat them 250-9. They were shutting them out by 140 points before they started getting some type of points on the board.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to see some of these teams. Honestly, though, Sway, out of the female teams wise, you got my top four would have to be Kinetic. You got Dream Crazy on that team, who's been dominant in the qualifiers. She was pulling 40 bombs, consistently pulling at least 2.5 KDs in Slain category. So she was doing phenomenal. So honestly, I think this is going to gain a lot of publicity. It's really showing who's the best of the best in the female division. And so really, this is really going to make a name for itself. I honestly think, though, the Female Pro League is really helping the publicity-wise. And that's why you're seeing some of these casters, some of these teams competing. And so it's really going to make, a big difference for some of these female women. So.
Okay. I have two more questions for you. Hopefully it doesn't go over time for you. One question was, do you see like a huge difference in skill between teams? Like you just said, there was one team, 250-9 is a huge difference in hardpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Just 9 seconds on the hill is not very much. So do you see like a huge difference in skill between some of these rosters?
I would say some of them, but when you look at it, though, over time, it's going to improve because all these teams are kind of learning each other. They're learning how to play. And really, it's going to make it to where, you're going to have more women involved in this. After, the publicity-wise in this, you're going to see more women competing. And honestly, you're going to see more of these teams, these women teams who are going to be like, basically, these young girls who are going to be competing. You're going to get to see some of them that are going to start making a name for themselves, and you're going to see some skill-wise, involved. And so, over time, some of these teams will end up building, and they'll get better. So.
Okay, my last question was kind of just, have you seen like team changes yet? Have they decided to switch teams at all? And are there any rules against that? If you've qualified for the Female Pro League, are there any rules to prevent people from switching teams?
Overall, there has been some teams, but it hasn't been like officially. It hasn't been any of the teams that have qualified. It's been teams that haven't qualified, that did not end up qualifying. So some of them were dropped. I saw some free agents that were announcing, some women who were announcing their free agents. And so, overall, though, you're going to see the awesome thing, though, here in the Female Pro League is we have subs. So, you're going to have subs overall with this. And it's going to help to where in the Female Pro League, you're going to have some of these women who didn't qualify are going to be able to be under a team that qualified. So it's going to be, it's going to be interesting.
Okay. So yeah, if someone can't make it, then they can fill in and maybe put on a good show. All right.
Yeah.
So Bigzy has to go. Sorry for those of you that just tuned in, but we were talking. You can watch our replay on Twitch and our previous broadcast. Thank you for coming out here, Bigzy, to talk to us about this.
Yeah, for sure. No problem.
All right. So those of you that are here, if you're new to the stream, give us a follow. We talk about Call of Duty eSports on a weekly basis. We talk about League of Legends esports on Sundays, and we'd love to see you come out for another talk show. I'll catch you all later, and thank you again, Bigzy, for joining us.
Yeah, no